You guys, I'm going to say just, it is about competition. And what the Alliance has done is that I feel closer to Tony than ever. What it's done is like, okay, well, you start understanding that thought process. To me, it's like, I want my kids to see what I see. I got a lot of my kids coaching in college because I want them to see what I see. So as we go and we start teaching, well, what you're doing in the fall is teaching your vision, teaching who we are. Like, man, we did this assignment, pedigree. Like, hey, man, my kid's got a certain pedigree. And so, man, you start understanding that thought process. So I say you can't have it without the other. And so we spend, like you say, the fall. You guys, we're letting everybody get an opportunity. Like you guys were, like I was going to bring that up about Colorado. Like, man, the guy from Colorado says, man, you guys always do pretty good in Colorado. I says, yeah, we do. Because that's what we're at about peaking, is that in the fall, I'm going to bat 12. You guys are going to bat 9. Right? And you guys are like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, when we start batting 9, things start changing. So, but see, but I'm not focusing on those 9 in the fall. I'm focusing on all 24 players on my team. Like I tell everybody that my kids are going to be starters in college. So, man, that 24th player, she's going to be a starter. You guys, Savannah Hooks at LMU pitched 100 innings. She was my number 5 pitcher. So that's what I say is, again, you start understanding the thought process, that value. So again, like I say, we are, I don't want to burn them out, so man, we're doing things twice. We kind of like slow down on the addition, having them run. We cut out that a little bit, and we just let them enjoy playing softball. I give them a break from me. I say high school is like my own kids. Get a break from me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go to high school games. I only go to everybody's senior day. You get one senior day. And so, man, you get 1 day from me in high school. And so, like, I flew up to San Francisco to my players' senior day out there. And so, man, you should understand. And then this is what I tell you guys about championship play. Summer, championship play begins. Single elimination in Colorado. That starts our season. I start cutting down the rotation. I cut it down to 10 now instead of 12. And, man, the rotations are eliminated and playing time is earned. And what I showed is this, is that getting to the level, you guys see that finger, is that, man, my pitcher, Kylie McGee, was a junior, and she threw against the Acers. We went extra innings with the Acers, and we went extra innings with McCardle. And my other pitcher, Jada, only lasted 2 innings. She only lasted 2 innings against McCardle. So, man, I'm like, man, I told Jada, I'm like, dude, this is a difference. Like, this is a difference of playing on these other teams. Like, we're here for championships. Like, you have to have the guts to want to get this done. Like, you don't got the guts. Like, Kylie McGee can't do this by herself, right? So I give her then, man, we play Texas Impact, right? Yeah, there you go. We played Texas Impact in the losers bracket, right? And, man, she still didn't show it to me. Someone else showed it to me. They sent me her finger, right? They sent me her finger because, man, her finger was all chewed up. And she threw 5 innings, but she was so pissed off at me, and she was like, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to show you. She wouldn't go out. So for 5 innings, she pitched with her finger like that. You know what I mean? And so, man, as I told her, I took a picture of you. Guess what she was about getting to that level? She was the freshman of the year of the Big West, and she was the pitcher of the year of Big West as a freshman. So, man, I have that as I told her, that's a shrine to her. I have that picture in my facility because every time someone comes, they ask. I told her, your legacy, this is your legacy. It will always be here where people are going to ask, what the hell's going on with that finger? So it's again, like I said, it's again, that I'm going to tell you guys, when I opened my building, I brought Mike over, like he's my best friend, he is. He's like my best friend in this game, and so in this game. And so, man, as we play and we compete, we do all those things, but at the end of the day, like we said, we got to let the kids feel the Batbuster Corona Angel, like, rivalry, but, like, Mike's my best friend. So, like, in this game. And so that's what we got to keep it and understand it. And we are. We're like, whatever, the odd couple. You know what I mean? And you start understanding it.
I think I heard a, aw.
No pictures. No.
We have that on camera, just documented. Well, and you guys, because we've got probably a lot of young coaches, maybe some that have just started, maybe they're in the middle. You haven't always done this, right? This is something that you all learned along the way. Can you go back to your younger selves when you go back to that rec teams, when you're coaching against each other, and as you're learning this, what would you go back and tell your younger self about this concept of preparing your teams and developing your kids and playing rotations are eliminated? What would you go back and tell your younger self?
Well, you learn along the way. Like, this is about learning. And if you're not learning as a coach, your players aren't going to learn as they go through this. When I started my Tough Enough teams, I was a football coach. I can tell you one time we were playing up in Rancho Cucamonga, and somebody left their helmet laying on the floor of the dugout. I took everybody's helmets and bags and threw them out on Baseline Road, and the cars are slamming on the brakes, and there's helmets and bats, $300 bats rolling around, and the parents just sat there and they didn't say a word because I had some real. I wouldn't do that now, but you learn as you go. When I started working with Gary, the only thing Gary told me says, "Hey, you can't yell." That lasted about 6 months. In fact, Janae was still on the team. But you just grow as a person and learn how to deal with people. And today it's even more important that you better learn how to adapt to the players and what you're doing. Because if you're not learning, your players aren't going to grow. So I think that when you go back, you just morph and you get more mature. You look at things a little differently as you get older. But the fire doesn't change. I get as pissed off now as I did when I was 35. But you just learn how to control it differently. So.
And I think that as I'm older now, like, a loss ain't the end of the world. And then, like, trying to prove, like, again, you would see these things of how and what people do. And so that's the other thing is I continue to say this about this game because as we talk about spring and summer and we talk about the things that I had to learn, just like Mike, I grew up with no sisters. So I grew up with all brothers. And so it took me at least the first 2 or 3 years that girls don't care how much you know. They care how much you care. So so that's my first goal. I tell every girl that gets on the team, right, that's a new kid, I'm like, man, you're on the honeymoon. And you're the prettiest girl on this damn team. You know what I mean? And just you want them to understand that where you coming from. So if they understand, like, I want you to be your best self. It took me 3 years to get to that point, like, man, you're coaching girls. And so everybody else, as I tell all the managers, we got a lot of young Martys that comes up in our program. And I said, man, I see you doing a lot of hollering. Have you told them you loved them yet? You know what I mean? And then we just talk about, like, we lost a player. Like Mike about playing. I'm in the 9th grade team. We haven't played a game yet. We're practicing this weekend, and we'll start. But my youngest daughter, Donna's coaching. We lost a player because guess what? They're already out there trying to win, Tony. I'm like, wait a minute, this makes no sense. I'm the 9th grade team, and we didn't play in no tournament, but you played the tournament the first weekend out. And then if you're going to play in a tournament, know that you're going to, like, go in that tournament the first weekend, then I'm going to get my ass kicked because I'm going to play everybody. You see what I'm saying? But you don't lose no player. Hey, you lost the game. That's what I told my daughter. You lost the game, right? You didn't. And you lost the player. Like, you was determined to play on Monday. Because, I got to make it to Monday. And she's a young coach. I said, see, dude, I would rather have been done on Sunday. You know what I mean? I would have rather been done on Sunday and had a player on my team where you played to play for Monday, but you lost the player. And so those are the things that we talk about, like understanding, like all of you guys, because it's so crazy because we're saying team. And like all night I'm thinking about like team, but it really isn't a team because, Tony, you're a head of an organization. He's a head of organization, right? And so as we go and we start understanding it, in the spring, like I say, your roving minor league instructor. Dude, what I do is I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the 12 U's, I'm going to look at the 14 U's. I'm going to make sure when we're in the spring that I'm not with my gold team, and I got my 9th grade team out, I'm going and making sure, like, the 12U people. You know, like, here it is. Like, the crazy thing is, we played on Monday, and they played Mike's team, and my daughter called, you better get here, because Mike and his daughter's at the game, right? I said, well, hell, was they there on Sunday? Shit, I was there on Sunday. I ain't going on Monday. So I said, hey, dog, I'm not going down to Memorial Day.
I was sitting in the stands watching the game.
Yeah. So that's the whole deal in a nutshell. Like, it's not your team. For you guys who have multiple teams, it's about your organization. And what these guys have done, these guys are going to tell you about branding, is that what it is, you got to take care of your organization. And then as you go and you say, okay, my 18 goal team, that's the Taj Mahal of my program. And I guard it with my life. So those people that are iffy or this, that, and the other, I tell everybody, you cool, but you ain't gonna never play for me.
They got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you understand the thought process of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And that's what I continue to tell you, like, the growth of what you're in control of your own destiny. And when you feel that way, you start understanding that. Gibson, I was telling her, like, man, I was so happy that she's started her own thing, right? And you start understanding that and being able to go with the ups and downs of starting an organization. And if you can deal with that, you can deal with the losses and all those things of learning. Because I had to learn how to play 18 gold because I came from 14s. And, man, I taught the game, like, man, these guys are swinging 3-0. I'm throwing 3-0 cookie, and I play Tyrone, they hit a home run. I'm like, time out. You guys are swinging 3-0? Like, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. That's what we're talking about. So understanding that thought process of the game. And so that's what I tell you guys that are here and what you're doing is that, man, I used to didn't feel this way, but the growth of the game is important. And you know what I mean? And Lonnie was the first person to get me to go to like a camp. Like, no, because, well, if I share what I know, then it takes from the Corona Angels from being special. No, it's just understanding the thought process that our growth of everybody. Like, I got a videotape of Tony doing the slapper. I'm like, I tell all my slappers, like, man, I got a videotape. We was in Chino, and I videotaped Tony on the slappers. And Tony got all these slappers, and they're bouncing and running through. And I'm like, man, you guys, how come Tony slappers like this and y'all look like this? I say, man, none of his slappers look like that. And so that's what we're talking about. Like, I got that from him. I'm like, dude, man, you guys got to slap through the ball, man. All you guys are stopping and then restarting. Like, who in the hell is, like I say, well, hell, all my slappers need to go to Tony Hill. You know what I mean?
Well, you stole my last question because that's really what I want to talk about with that. But I think this is important. I know these stories, but you guys don't all, because now you're both in it full time, right? You get to do this as a career, as a living, but it wasn't always that way. How many of our coaches in here, how many coach full time? Or how many of you are, it's on the side, you have a full-time job and then you're coaching, which is probably how a lot of us started. Can you guys give your backgrounds before you went full-time? What did you do?
I was a CO for 28 years. And so as I tell everybody, like, man, I'm talking about being grumpy, is that I used to work graveyards to have weekends off. So
Remind them, Marty, what a CO is.
Yeah, correctional officer. So I worked in a prison for 28 years. So you start understanding that thought process. So I would get off work at 8, have my uniform, take my uniform off, go to the game. Man, we did that until I had enough seniority to get weekends off. So understanding that thought process. And I'm going to say, man, so I went to a lot of games already mad. You know what I mean? So, exactly. And so you start understanding that thought process. So, again, that was the whole deal of once I went to days and channeling, you know, like, man, I'm not working at the prison. You know what I mean? Like, okay, not everybody walking up to me is trying to, like, as a threat. You know what I mean? So, again, you had to, like, take that face off. You know what I mean? Like, you understand, like, at my job, I had to have a certain face. Well, I just told Rachel that, you know, Rachel Garcia, I'm like, man, remember, like, your window of what you're going to do is going to be kind of short. And so, man, I told her, like, don't wait till you're 50 to learn. Like, I did Cherry Hill, and that's the first time, like, I'm like, man, I went home to my wife, and I'm like, man, the perception of Marty's pretty tough. Like, they're like, man, we didn't know you were like this, man. We didn't know. I'm like, damn. I went home, and I told Rachel this yesterday. I was like, don't wait till you're 50 where everybody looking like, oh, man, don't mess with this guy. You know what I mean? And, like, dude, welcome people. Have a welcoming face for people to come. And then when you have that welcoming face, that people want to come to you. Not because you're a star, just because of who you are then that's when you're going to make your money.
I was in the landscape business. I was a landscape contractor, built pools, did tree work, everything. And one of our coaches, Steve Conroe, one time we're playing, I had my company truck and we're in Las Vegas. He goes, oh, Kersey Pool's building a pool here in Vegas? I said, no. I would drive my company trucks all over the place to go to my daughter's game. I'd drive to Reno to watch a doubleheader and drive home. And it's just what you do. It's passion. And I can tell you, and for those of you that have been doing it a while, I used to do these camps for Gary where I would hit like 9,000 balls. And I would get like dinner at we go to to Outback or something like that. And I work for 10 hours, hit 40,000 ground balls, get a dinner. Sometimes that didn't even happen. I'd go to Efren's in Colorado. But it's the passion and the development that I would just want to touch on one thing, Jamie. People that are starting programs or they have an idea of doing this. The one thing I learned is that players pay attention to what you do, not always what you say. And what you build in them, your work ethic and how you approach things, how you treat people, how you treat your opponents, how you treat the game, and how you treat them, it goes a long way. Far greater than what happens at that instant. It's a lesson that your players, players play like coaches coach. And when you watch our teams, you'll know that. Players play like coaches coach. And it's something that when you're building your brand, I know that's coming up next, but it has to be you. And it has to be what you're going to pass on. What do you want your players to get away from just learning how to play catch, hit the ball, and do that kind of stuff? If they're going to do this successfully, there's a lot more to it. And I told, the kids that go on, the one thing that the kids that go on and do really, really well, they're whole on the inside. And it's because they understood this path and this journey and all this shit that we put them through. They get it, and because they want to be great, so they just do it and they just keep getting better. But if you're building this, what you do in that little instant, it carries weight for a long time. And that's the one thing that I think that we do it different ways, but it's quite unique in how it comes out.